Sometimes, the smallest question can carry the heaviest pain. And sometimes, the simplest act of kindness can change two lives forever. What happened when a one-legged girl nervously asked a tired single dad, "Can I sit here?" is something no one in that cafe ever forgot. Stay with me because this story isn't just emotional. It's a reminder of who we all can be when kindness leads the way. Before we begin, if you love real, heartfelt stories that restore your faith in humanity, make sure to subscribe, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments. This is True Story Tales, and your support helps us keep bringing meaningful stories like this to life. Mark never planned to be a single dad. Life had other plans. At 37, his days revolved around early mornings, packed lunches, school drop-offs, and late nights working overtime. His wife had passed away 3 years earlier after a sudden illness, leaving him alone to raise their 7-year-old son, Noah. Mark loved his son deeply, but the weight of responsibility often pressed on his chest like a constant ache. One Saturday afternoon, after Noah's soccer practice, Mark decided to take him to a small neighborhood cafe. It wasn't fancy, just a quiet place with warm coffee, worn wooden tables, and the kind of calm that felt like a short break from the world. Noah sat across from his dad, happily stirring whipped cream into his hot chocolate. That's when Mark noticed her. She stood near the entrance, holding a small tray with trembling hands. She couldn't have been more than 10 or 11 years old. Her brown hair was tied back neatly, and she wore jeans that were slightly too long on one side. Beneath them was a prosthetic leg. The cafe was crowded. Every table was full except one empty chair across from Mark. The girl took a few hesitant steps forward. You could see the fear in her eyes. Not the fear of walking, but the fear of being rejected. She stopped at Mark's table and spoke so softly he almost didn't hear her. Excuse me, sir," she said. "Can I sit here?" Mark looked up, surprised. Before he could answer, he noticed the way she braced herself, as if she was already expecting a no. People nearby glanced over. Some looked away quickly, pretending not to notice. Others watched silently. Mark saw something in her face that hit him straight in the heart. Loneliness. He didn't hesitate. "Of course you can," he said gently, pulling the chair out for her. "Please, you don't even have to ask." The girl froze. Her eyes filled instantly, with tears. She sat down slowly, gripping the edge of the table as if she wasn't sure this moment was real. "I'm sorry," she whispered, embarrassed as tears rolled down her cheeks. "Most people don't say yes." Noah looked at her with curiosity, not judgment. "Hi," he said with a grin. "I'm Noah." The girl smiled weakly. "I'm Lily." Mark felt a tightness in his throat. "Why wouldn't people let you sit?" Noah asked innocently. Lily hesitated, then she shrugged. "Sometimes they say they're saving the seat. Sometimes they just look uncomfortable." Mark understood exactly what she meant. He remembered how strangers avoided eye contact when his wife was sick, how people didn't know what to say, so they said nothing at all. Kindness often disappears when people feel awkward. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Mark asked, "Are you here by yourself?" Lily nodded. "My mom works at the bookstore next door. I like to come here and read while I wait for her." She reached into her backpack and pulled out a worn paperback novel, its pages bent and loved. Mark smiled. "That's a good way to pass the time." Noah leaned forward. "Does your leg hurt?" Mark started to correct him, worried he'd crossed a line, but Lily shook her head. "Not anymore. It used to." She explained how she'd lost her leg in a car accident when she was 5. How learning to walk again was the hardest thing she'd ever done. How kids at school stared, how adults tried to be polite but didn't really know how to treat her. "I just want to be normal," she said quietly. Mark felt his chest ache. "You are normal," he said firmly. "Different doesn't mean broken." Lily looked at him, really looked at him, as if she'd never heard those words spoken with such certainty before. Tears filled her eyes again. "My dad used to say that," she whispered. "Before he passed away. That did it." Mark reached across the table and gently placed his hand near hers, not touching, just close enough to offer comfort. "I'm sorry," he said. "I know how that feels." They shared a moment of understanding that didn't need words. The waitress came by, and before Lily could protest, Mark ordered her a hot chocolate. You don't have to, Lily started. I want to, he said. Kindness isn't a favor. It's a choice. She smiled through tears. As they talked, something shifted in the cafe. People who had been pretending not to notice began to relax. One woman smiled at Lily. A man at the next table nodded at Mark. The tension that had hung in the air slowly faded. When Lily's mom finally arrived, she stopped short at the sight of her daughter laughing. She walked over cautiously. I hope she wasn't bothering you, her mom said quickly, already apologizing. Mark stood up. Not at all, he said. She made our day better. Lily ran to her mom and hugged her tightly. He said I could sit, she said excitedly, without acting weird. Her mom's eyes filled with tears as she looked at Mark. Thank you, she said softly. You have no idea how much that means. Mark smiled. Actually, I do. Before leaving, Lily turned back. Can I ask you something? She said. Of course. Will you remember me? Mark knelt down to her level. I already do, he said, and I always will. Lily hugged him without warning, then hugged Noah too. As they walked out, Mark noticed something different inside himself, lighter, stronger. That night, as he tucked Noah into bed, his son asked, Dad, why was Lily crying? Mark thought for a moment. Because sometimes, he said, people carry a lot of hurt. And when someone is kind without expecting anything back, it reminds them they matter. Noah nodded sleepily. I'm going to be kind like that, he said. Mark smiled in the dark, and he realized something important. Kindness doesn't require money, strength, or perfection. Sometimes all it takes is a chair, and the courage to say yes. So the next time someone asks, can I sit here? Whether with words or just a hopeful look, remember the story. Your answer might be the one thing they've been waiting their whole life to hear. Let's choose kindness, because you never know whose tears you might turn into hope.